Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, the main story this week has been the emergence of this powerful low-pressure system that you can see right here in the surface wind spinning in the middle part of the country. As this system has emerged, it has produced already through parts of Nebraska, but really South Dakota, just an enormous amount of snowfall, and it is nowhere close to being done just yet. Much of the middle part of the country is going to be dealing with some very strong winds, and as we see the system continue to move toward the east, we do have one thing to be thankful for, and that is that in the upper levels, it is losing some support. But as it loses its support, it is going to go down swinging. And what I mean by that is we are drawing an enormous amount of warm, moist air up out ahead of this system. So our main severe weather threat today is moving over here into parts of the Corn Belt, really right here in the eastern Corn Belt of Illinois and Indiana. On the backside, still huge snows to come here, and all of us in this section of the country dealing with some very strong winds. There was one thing that I got wrong in the last forecast I want to address very quickly. As this system emerged, it brought so much dry air so quickly into parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas that where I thought we might see some strong to severe storms building down a line like this yesterday, they didn't occur. It was just too dry. Much of the severe weather was tucked away in parts of Nebraska with this system. But just to show you the overall flow we're dealing with, you see this ridge, this high pressure center sitting out here in the open Pacific? That high pressure system will be directing our systems for the next few days here. They're going to come right here out of the northwest, dig into the southern plains, and then race on off to the northeast. And what all that means is this system you're seeing like this today, it's just the beginning. We have at least two more coming up in the next 10 days. They'll be different. They will be different, and I'm not expecting another massive blizzard out of it, but the system, the pattern, it stays active. All hazards weather map put up by weather.gov, large region of blizzard warning still going, large regions surrounding that of winter storm warning, and even our winter weather advisories get down here into parts of Wisconsin and Michigan. This whole region is dealing with strong winds, and this is the wind advisory that you see in this location. And once this system passes through, get ready for a shot of some colder air. And again, this is system number one. System number two emerges shortly thereafter and races right up in the same direction. So this map is going to stay colorful like this for a while. Already we have on the ground, as of last evening, we put down this much snow here. Some locations in parts of South Dakota picking up between 6 and 18 inches of snow as we get back over there toward parts of Wyoming, Montana. And I'm just going to say this for the rest of the day today, this region is under the gun for some heavy, heavy snow as this system pivots and translates to the north. Well, that big punch I mentioned here is not only coming from the blizzard, but it's also coming from the fact we're getting a lot of warm, moist, unstable air that will be advecting into parts of Illinois today. So the main frontal squall line will squeeze through this area, and as it does so late this evening here on Thursday, lift that air, and we're going to see some strong, severe storms that will race through parts of Illinois over into the eastern Corn Belt. And this, again, is just the beginning of our severe weather threat. So let's take a look at what it looks like on our high-resolution NAM model. You've got a lot to watch. Watch for the heavy snow here. Watch for the main front to pull right in through this area and push to the east. You will see some warm air advection bringing up the threat for scattered showers and thunderstorms here. And then our next system is already pushing through parts of the Pacific Northwest. It'll dig into the Four Corners states, and you'll see at the end of this animation our next system emerging here. Yeah, I just had to draw a bunch of lines on this because we're about to see a very, very active pattern continue here. So here we go. This gets us into early morning on Thursday. Heavy snow as this system draws in that moisture. We are going to be seeing in here an additional 10 to some locations over 18 inches of snow throughout the day. Now, as I press forward, look in the middle section of the country right here. That's the main frontal boundary pushing through western Illinois late this evening, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, getting into central Illinois, stretching all the way down, really from Wisconsin all the way down here along the Mississippi River into Louisiana. So it'll be this area watch for the strong to severe storms. Out ahead of it, look over here in the southeast. Why these scattered showers and thunderstorms? This sweeps through in the overnight hours into Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, down into Mississippi, such that by early Friday morning, that frontal squall line is still trying to push through parts of the Ohio River Valley all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Again, out ahead of this, a lot of scattered showers and thunderstorms as it moves on off to the east. For you that are in parts of South Dakota, North Dakota, really eastern North Dakota, but Minnesota, we're still dealing with snow on the backside of this all the way through Friday afternoon and very windy conditions that follow. Now, if you were watching the Northwest, just go back. Look at the heavy precip moving through parts of coastal Oregon and Washington. It comes through Idaho, Nevada, a lot of topographically induced precipitation there. And then that system, look over there in parts of Oklahoma, Texas, look, it emerges right here by Saturday morning. And that's just the next big one we're watching, which brings in the severe weather threat in this area. And I hate to say it, but potentially some snow pressing into this area. Okay, before we talk about that, total accumulated precip, flood threat continues here. Remember, the topsoil in that area I just circled had thawed. We had, especially down in through here, we had thawed this out, which means as this snow goes down and as it melts, we're going to be putting on top of already saturated soils an additional 1 to 3 inches of liquid equivalent. You can see where the storm spread on the main front as it pushes through and out ahead of it here, stretching from the Carolinas all the way up into the Northeast. And our next system comes down and emerges right here and takes off. Total snow that we're going to be adding, I'm going to use the National Digital Forecast Database for these numbers. You can see that through Saturday evening, we are adding in through this area another 8 to some locations, maybe up to 18 inches of snow right in through this corridor. Very, very heavy and wet snow coming through here with some incredibly strong winds. System number 2 that emerges this weekend, our main severe weather threat transitions to the south. To see that Storm Prediction Center issuing a Day 3 enhanced risk for parts of Arkansas, eastern Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi is telling me that everything is coming together there to produce a pretty nasty situation in terms of severe weather, and it's only going to be moving to the east with time as we progress into the day on Sunday. Okay, snow. This is all from the first system. You're looking at the probability of picking up 1 inch, so of course we're going to get hammered here. But that's not my point in showing you this map. As system number 2 emerges and takes off like this, you can see there are a couple of pockets in through here where the European ensemble, which is suggesting that the probability of getting maybe an inch of snow here might be 60 to 70%. So with this next system coming through, we're going to have to watch from the Panhandle of Texas getting up into parts of eastern Iowa, northern Missouri, northwestern Illinois, and southern Wisconsin for some snow out of this one. And this is the same system that produces the severe weather to the south. I will say this, I've done a multi-model comparison. The European model is the most aggressive with the snow. It'll be a wet, slushy snow that will likely melt quite quickly with the next couple of systems that are coming through here. So let's finally get to it. Ready? We've already diagnosed our first 60 hours. So I'm going to get you right here to Saturday morning. Let's watch system number 2. It is now emerging in parts of Texas. So this area on Saturday is under the gun, and you're going to see the snow going in this direction as I play forward. So ready? Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening into Saturday overnight hours. See the snow pressing there on the back side of this? This next system from this deeper trough that emerges, it is going to light up this section of the country with severe weather, and there's the chance for this to extend up into the Ohio River Valley as we progress into the day on Sunday. The snow that does fall on the back of this, it'll be a wet, slushy snow that comes in here, but with the strong winds of this system, it's going to be a raw and rotten day for our Sunday here across the middle section of the country. You can see the severe storms continue to push to the east, though, as I continue this animation. Ready? There they go, over toward the Carolinas, all the way down to the Florida Gulf Coast. And this next system just barrels through the northeast, strong to severe storm threat, really stretching pretty far to the north here. I think we're going to watch this very carefully as we get in our weekend model runs. Behind it, a couple of days of drying down, but look at this. By the time we get into midweek next week, another deep trough swings through, and as it swings through on Wednesday, we're going to watch Wednesday into Thursday for another system to progress, basically following the footsteps of the one that just goes through this next weekend. So nothing is slowing this down. This pattern is extremely active. And the problem is we're putting all of this down on top of already saturated soils. This map shows you the current calculated soil moisture anomaly from the Climate Prediction Center. Where you see the number 100, that's 100 millimeter excess. That's 4 inches. So we have a wide swath of the country in through here that has anywhere between 2 and 4 inches of additional soil moisture at this point. And over the next week, we're about to add to this in this area another 2 and in some locations well over 4 inches of rainfall. So field work is just not an option when we have this much rainfall. And I hate to have to say it, but Mother Nature is doing her best to keep us from getting the start of 2019 growing season going here. I'll just say this, getting you all the way out to week 2 we continue to see that same location carrying the wetter bias. So through the middle part of the month of April, active and wet is the name of the game. And we've already got flooding on our major river network. Look at this. We can see across the country 252 gauges at flood stage right now, and we're putting down snow here and heavy rain here, severe weather there. We're just going to continue to add to our major flooding problem in the Mississippi River. And I talked about this in great detail in my long-range outlook that came out yesterday around midday. Go to my.Nutrien Ag Solutions to check that out. We talk about our flooding threat all the way through summer. So please just go look at that video and take a look at our long-range analysis. What is the pattern doing? Well, here's our deep trough causing all the problems today on Thursday. We've already discussed that. Let's get it out of there. This is the one that's coming through the weekend. See, it's sweeping through parts of Texas. It lifts quickly toward the northeast, and that's system number 2. Now, the next one that comes in after this, kind of watch this again real quick. The next one right there, okay? So watching early next week, we see another broader trough feature swinging through. Again, each one of these is going around this ridge in the Central Pacific, which we talked about at the beginning. And as that trough kicks through, that's our next system for middle and end of next week. That again follows in the footsteps of the previous 2 systems and moves toward the Great Lakes and toward Quebec and Ontario. As I stretch this out here to toward the end of April, the 3rd week of April, we do see the flow patterns doing something like this. And that keeps things cool here. That keeps things quite active in this area. And it keeps things relatively warmer and drier for the west coast of the United States. Well, the question for a lot of us is, are we ever going to break this down and do something like that? Well, as we look out longer term, there are a few things that are going to help us get there. In the near term, though, what are some of our bigger global teleconnections keeping things cool? Well, one thing's for sure, we've moved out of the null phase, which is here with the MJO, over into phases 1, 2, and 3. And with that, that tends to, in April and May, keep things cooler. So we're just kind of looking at what those patterns might do. Secondly, ENSO, El Nino. When we have an active El Nino, we tend to see in April cooler conditions across the middle and eastern part of the country. That's very common. And with the positive phase of the quasi-biennial oscillation, that tends to keep the pattern unblocked, which means regular systems. So our teleconnections are keeping things going. Watch what they do in terms of temperatures here. Getting you through early in the day on Thursday. Look at this big warm air out ahead of this. So the Ohio River Valley, yeah, you're going to have a warm day on Thursday. But sweeping in behind it, we're going to get the cold of the Central Plains coming through by the time we get into Saturday. Now, if you're in the East Coast all the way through the Gulf Coast here, things are going to stay very, very warm because the system lifts towards the Great Lakes all the way through Saturday and Sunday. But the system that comes out on Saturday into Sunday sweeps through, knocking out that warmer air, bringing the severe weather threat to the south, and there you go, you get the cool down that's associated with it. But remember, the next trough comes into the Four Corners area in the Intermountain West, and midweek we're going to see a warm-up here for us in the midsection of the country. That's just ahead of this next system. But with that one, cold air comes in behind it again. Now, these temperatures aren't, I wouldn't say ridiculously cold. It's not the cold keeping us out of the fields. It is the wet weather. And we do see the pattern moderating somewhat by the time we get past about the 23rd, 24th of the month, which means we will see these planting windows emerge as we get into the end of April and the beginning of May. And I have some good news for us in the middle section of the country. We do see that by the start of May, the flow pattern of the atmosphere is going to adjust a bit. We're going to get a little bit more wavy out in the Pacific. And that is going to help set us up with some sort of Four Corners, Great Basin out there out west trough, which may lead to more ridging here in the middle part of the country and the eastern part of the country. The problem with this is a great May setup for a lot of severe weather in this section of the country. Warm, yes. Unstable, yes. So both of those things are a factor, but I addressed this in our long-range update. Go check that out, my.nutrienagsolutions.com. Quick global update as we finish out this video. Much of South America, after the first crop beans was taken out, has had a great growing season. I'm just showing you here a precipitation map, so you can pause it and take a look at it, but the story is Argentina, after a very, very rough year last year, has had fantastic moisture, and they're drying down as they're trying to get their crop out of the ground. Same thing with much of southern Brazil down here. In the safrinha crop for northern Brazil, cotton and corn crop, after the dryness of January and February, much of March and April have come in wet, and that crop is thriving on that moisture. So South America is not giving us any adversity at this point. Where's another region globally that I am concerned about? Take a look at Europe here. These are the March precipitation anomalies. You can see that much of southern Europe carried a dry bias throughout the month of March, and we've started off April with some pockets of dryness. Now, as we progress into the rest of April here, we just look at what our next 10 days looks like in terms of precipitation anomalies. Much of the action is going to stay out here in the Atlantic, which is why we're still picking up on some regions that are going to be dry. We will see in parts of southern and eastern Europe some places where things are going to be wet, but the Russian wheat belt, much of northern Europe, and this spot down here in the Iberian Peninsula does carry a bit of a dry bias moving forward. I just think it's something we have to watch. It's something about winter wheat we're going to have to pay close attention to here, but I wanted to keep you up to date with what was going on in this area. Okay, with that, I'll just stop there on the global outlook, and we'll get right to the end of this video. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you look forward to our next ag forecast coming soon. Remember, we release these things every day of the week, so please go to my.nutrienagsolutions.com to check them out. Hope you all have a great weekend and a great next week, although volatile weather across the middle section of this country is going to keep a lot of us from doing any sort of field work. We'll keep you up to date on the latest we have on this weather forecast. But with that, I'll thank you there and hope you have a good weekend. Thank you.